Here's something that should stop you in your tracks. Right now, your blood pressure could be dangerously high, and you would feel absolutely nothing. No headache, no warning, no sign whatsoever, and by the time you do feel something, it may already be too late. Today, we're breaking down exactly what you can do, starting today, to bring those numbers down and protect your life. Friends, if my videos are helping you even a little, or if you enjoy my content, then please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your one subscription gives me the motivation to create even better videos. Also, press the bell icon so you can receive every new video first. High blood pressure. It sounds clinical. It sounds like something your doctor brings up at your annual checkup and you half listen to before moving on with your day. But here's the reality. This condition is one of the leading contributors to heart attacks, strokes, and premature death across the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. And the truly unsettling part? Statistics suggest that roughly 80% of people will develop high blood pressure at some point during their lifetime if they live long enough. That's not a fringe statistic. That's almost everyone. So, what exactly are we talking about when we say blood pressure? Think of your arteries like a garden hose. The water pressure inside that hose, that's your blood pressure. The top number, called your systolic pressure, measures the force your heart generates when it pushes blood out. The bottom number, your diastolic pressure, reflects the pressure that remains in your arteries even when your heart is at rest between beats. The gold standard target most cardiologists and health guidelines in the US, Canada, and UK agree on, 120/80. That number isn't arbitrary. That number isn't. It comes from decades of population research, including the famous Framingham Heart Study, which tracked thousands of people in Massachusetts for over 50 years. Study after study confirmed that people hovering around 120/80 experienced fewer heart attacks, fewer strokes, and lived longer. Then came the SPRINT trial, a major US-based clinical study where researchers actively lowered the blood pressure of high-risk patients toward that target. The results were clear. Those people lived longer and had fewer cardiovascular events. But here's something most people get wrong. You don't need to hit 120/80 perfectly to see real benefit. In fact, dropping your top number by just 5 points, say from 140 down to 135, reduces your stroke risk by 15% and your heart disease risk by roughly 10%. That is enormous. Every single millimeter counts. So today we're walking through 9 evidence-backed lifestyle changes that can move those numbers in the right direction. No prescription required to get started. Number 1, exercise. And yes, it has to be consistent. Let's start with the one that nobody wants to hear first, but everybody needs to. Exercise. Current guidelines from health authorities in Canada, the United States, and the United Kingdom all align on the same recommendation: 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity per week. Now, before you scroll away, hear this out. That's roughly 20 to 25 minutes a day. And you don't have to start there. If you've been completely sedentary, start with 5 minutes. Seriously, sorry, 5 minutes of walking counts. The goal is to build a habit, not win a medal on day one. There are countless stories of people who started from zero fitness and worked their way up to running half marathons. The first step is just moving. Consistent exercise strengthens your heart, improves the flexibility of your blood vessels, and directly lowers blood pressure over time. It's one of the most well-documented lifestyle interventions in cardiovascular medicine. Number 2, rethink your relationship with salt is one of the most misunderstood topics in blood pressure conversations. And social media has made the confusion worse. Here's the truth. If you're a generally healthy person with normal blood pressure, excess salt may only nudge your numbers by a couple of points. That's why you'll occasionally see people online salting everything and claiming it makes no difference. For them, in that moment, it might not. But if you already have elevated blood pressure or a genetic predisposition to it, and many Americans and Canadians do, excessive sodium is genuinely damaging. It causes your body to retain water, raises the volume of blood in your vessels, and drives that top number up. The fix is two-pronged. First, ditch the salt shaker at the table. That's the easy win. Second, and this one is harder, start reading the sodium content on processed food labels. The amount of salt hidden in packaged foods, fast food, restaurant meals, and even bread in the US and UK is staggering. Some single servings contain your entire recommended daily intake. You're not adding salt. The food industry is doing it for you, quietly. Number 3, the DASH diet, the most researched eating pattern for blood pressure. Speaking of food, let's talk about a dietary approach that has more clinical backing for blood pressure reduction than almost anything else. The DASH diet. DASH stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. It was specifically designed and studied with blood pressure outcomes in mind. What does it actually look like on a plate? Think fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and lean proteins, particularly fish. Think less red meat, less processed food, less sugar, and less sodium. It's broadly similar to a Mediterranean-style diet, and it's widely available and affordable across the US, UK, and Canada. One useful way to think about it: focus on plants as the foundation of every meal, with protein playing a supporting role rather than the starring one. Whole food, minimally processed, colorful plates. That's the core idea. Number 4, alcohol, the uncomfortable truth. This one tends to generate strong reactions, so let's just lay out the facts. Both the World Health Organization and updated Canadian guidelines, which dropped their recommendations significantly in recent years, now suggest that the safest amount of alcohol for your health is as little as possible. The Canadian guidelines, which previously allowed for up to 2 drinks per day for men, were revised to recommend no more than 2 drinks per week based on updated cancer and cardiovascular research. For blood pressure specifically, regular alcohol consumption raises it. It also adds empty calories that contribute to weight gain, which independently raises blood pressure. And despite the popular belief that a couple of drinks helps you sleep better, the research shows the opposite. Alcohol fragments your sleep, reduces its quality, and, as we'll get to in a moment, poor sleep is a major blood pressure driver. This doesn't mean one drink at a celebration ruins your health. It means regular, habitual alcohol consumption is working against you if blood pressure is a concern. Number 5, weight. The compounding factor. Excess body weight is one of the most direct contributors to high blood pressure. The mechanisms are multiple. More weight means more vascular resistance, more strain on the heart, more inflammatory markers circulating in your body, and often more sleep disruption. The commonly used tool is BMI, or body mass index. It's not a perfect measurement. It doesn't distinguish between muscle and fat, for example, but it gives a reasonable general guide. A BMI under 25 is generally considered a healthy range. Above 25 or 26, the cardiovascular risk begins to climb meaningfully. The reality in both the United States and the UK is that the majority of adults currently have a BMI above that range. This isn't about aesthetics. It's about the measurable burden excess weight places on your cardiovascular system. And the good news is that even modest weight loss, 5 to 10 pounds, can produce noticeable reductions in blood pressure. Number 6, smoking, still doing damage in 2025. Roughly 1 in 6 Canadians still smokes. The numbers in the US and UK, while declining, are still significant. And beyond the well-known cancer and lung risks, smoking actively raises blood pressure through a different pathway: inflammation. When you smoke, your body triggers an inflammatory response. That inflammation increases what's called vascular tone, essentially causing your blood vessels to tighten. Tighter vessels mean higher pressure, and this effect happens independent of the nicotine hit itself. As for vaping, the honest answer is that specific blood pressure data is still emerging. What we do know is that vaping is not a neutral substitute. If you smoke, quitting, by whatever means works for you, is one of the single highest impact changes you can make for your cardiovascular health. Number 7, stress. Stop dismissing it. Chronic stress used to be written off in medical conversations. It was considered soft, something to manage personally, not a clinical concern. That view has changed dramatically over the past decade. Sustained, unrelieved stress keeps your body in a state of physiological arousal: elevated cortisol, elevated adrenaline, elevated blood pressure. Over months and years, this takes a measurable toll on your cardiovascular system. And here's the number that might surprise you. Practices like mindfulness and meditation have been shown in clinical studies to lower systolic blood pressure by approximately 5 millimeters of mercury. That's the same 5-point drop we talked about earlier and the one associated with a 15% reduction in stroke risk. What counts as stress reduction looks different for everyone. For some people, it's structured meditation. For others, it's time in nature, creative work, prayer, or quiet solitary activity. The key is intentionality, building something into your routine that genuinely allows your nervous system to downregulate. It's not a luxury, it's a clinical intervention. Number 8, sleep. The underrated heavy hitter. Sleep medicine has become one of the fastest growing fields in healthcare, and blood pressure is a major reason why. The target most cardiologists and sleep specialists agree on is around 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep per night. Not just time in bed, actual restorative sleep. During proper sleep, your blood pressure naturally dips. When that dip doesn't happen, due to sleep apnea, insomnia, or chronic short sleep, your cardiovascular system pays the price around the clock. Sleep apnea in particular is massively underdiagnosed in North America and the UK. People stop breathing repeatedly throughout the night. Their oxygen drops, their heart rate surges, and they wake slightly, often without remembering it. They feel tired but assume that's just normal aging. Meanwhile, their blood pressure is being driven upward night after night. If you snore heavily, wake unrefreshed despite adequate hours in bed, or your partner has noticed you stopping breathing at night, a sleep study is worth pursuing. It can be genuinely life-changing. Supporting your sleep also means being honest about caffeine, which can stay active in your system for up to 8 hours, meaning that afternoon coffee may be quietly sabotaging your night. It means avoiding food close to bedtime and recognizing that alcohol, despite its sedative effect, disrupts sleep architecture and leaves you worse off. Number 9, monitor your blood pressure at home. This last one might be the most immediately actionable thing on this entire list, and it costs less than a dinner out. A reliable upper arm blood pressure cuff, not the wrist variety, typically runs between $50 and $100 in the US, Canada, and UK. And cardiologists will tell you that home readings are often more accurate and clinically useful than a single office reading. Why? Because blood pressure fluctuates constantly. The reading you get at a doctor's office, sometimes taken once in a stressful environment, after rushing across a parking lot, is a snapshot that may not represent your true baseline. Home monitoring, done consistently at the same time of day, under calm conditions, gives a far more honest picture. The method matters. Sit quietly for 5 minutes before measuring. Use your upper arm, take 2 or 3 readings, and note them down. A simple printed calendar works perfectly fine as a log. Your doctor can then look at trends over days and weeks, which is far more informative than any single reading. If your numbers are consistently elevated at home, that's valuable information. If they're consistently healthy, that's equally valuable. Either way, you're now driving with the dashboard actually working. Now, a question that generates significant debate, particularly among older viewers. Does the target change as you age? It's a fair question. Many people in their 60s and 70s wonder whether slightly higher blood pressure is just a normal part of aging, something the body needs perhaps to push blood to the brain and organs that have less elastic vessels. Here's what the evidence actually says. The clinical guidelines in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom do not include a separate, more lenient blood pressure target for older adults in otherwise standard health. The 120/80 target, or as close to it as is safely achievable, remains the benchmark across age groups for the majority of patients. There is nuance, of course. Patients who are frail, who have multiple complex conditions, or who experience symptomatic low blood pressure, when their numbers are reduced, may need individualized targets discussed with their physician. But the broad cultural assumption that high blood pressure is acceptable or even desirable as you age is not supported by the current clinical evidence. And there's an important psychological reframe here. High blood pressure isn't something you've earned. It's something that's accumulated through diet, stress, inactivity, genetics, and time. And while you can't control all of those factors, the lifestyle changes we've just walked through address the ones you can. Let's bring it all together. High blood pressure is one of the most common, most dangerous and most preventable conditions affecting adults across the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't slow you down before it strikes. And by the time it causes a heart attack or stroke, the damage is already done. But here's what makes this story different from most health conversations. The interventions work. Not theoretically, not in small pilot studies, in large scale, long term clinical trials involving hundreds of thousands of people. Regular exercise, reducing sodium, eating whole, minimally processed food, drinking less alcohol, managing your weight, quitting smoking, actively managing stress, prioritizing sleep, and keeping track of your numbers at home. None of these require a prescription. None of them require expensive equipment or specialized knowledge. They require consistency and the understanding that small changes applied reliably over time produce real, measurable, life extending results. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. You just need to pick one thing from this list and start today. Then add another, then another. Your cardiovascular system is remarkably responsive. Give it the right conditions, and it will reward you with years you didn't think you had. If you found this valuable, share it with someone you care about, because chances are this conversation is one they need to hear. And if you're already working on your blood pressure, drop a comment below and let us know what's made the biggest difference for you. We read everyone.